there, welcome back. We've just come back from the chat over on Facebook Live about sorting out short stories and stuff. If you've just joined us, welcome. It's nice to see you. Please feel free to go and pop stuff in the chat. Bear in mind that this is being pre-recorded. However, I am actually in the chat whilst watching this. I know, I'm probably cringing quite heavily at the moment, so be nice. Right now we're back here on YouTube, and I'm going to be doing a kind of like a signing, because obviously we live in historic times and going out and doing live signings is not something that is terribly easily done at the moment, especially where I am. Here in the UK, we're currently technically still in lockdown. Things are beginning to slowly come back to normal. I think next week we're allowed to associate for a longer time period with people, but right now it's very much nowhere is open. So things like this, where we are effectively doing a signing and we're doing it virtually, are the norm at the moment. I'm not keen on the word new normal, but it is normal. Anyway, moving swiftly on, I'm also going to be doing a bit of a Q&A. I've got my phone here. I'm terribly well prepared. I have my phone here with a whole host of questions on here, and wow, the list just keeps going. Hopefully we'll get through as many of them as we possibly can. If you have sent me a question and I don't get round to your question, please don't think that I didn't read your question. I try and read all of them. In fact, any comment or anything that anyone sends me, I do go and read. I just don't necessarily have the time to respond to you, which is sad, but unfortunately that's the nature of the industry. However, I have my my favourite pen here. It is a yellow gold Bic marking. It's a Sharpie basically, and I like to be fancy, and I have a gold one, I have a silver one, and today I'm going to be signing them off in the gold one. But I have a little stack of my new novella Shade Reaver here. This actually has just got picked up, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it does for the Best of Spring Reading 2021. So, and I'll find out whereabouts in that list it comes in April time, I think. But that's exciting. Either way, I'm signing these off so that some of them can be sent off, and for kind of like thank yous for some people, things like that. But this is the book that is the book that you can buy right now. Wow, I am messing my words up today. But it's the book that you can buy right now, and it doesn't matter whereabouts officially you buy it. You will be able to get it on Amazon. You should be able to get it at Barnes & Noble. W.H. Smith have got access to it. I'm fairly confident you should be able to get it from there. It's worth saying that obviously, because of COVID and things like that, you treat your if you have access to a bookseller, please treat them nicely. If they don't have it in, or their deliveries haven't arrived and stuff, it's not their fault. It's just the way that we live these days. But either way, no matter where you buy it, basically I am going to be giving 10%, which is quite a bit, to UNICEF in order to support their COVID program. But we'll get onto that in a different one. Either way, today I'm going to be signing some of these, and I have a host of questions. And considering this isn't going to be too long a video, we should get onto that. So I'm going to start off by signing this first one. We will see how many of these I physically sign. This might just turn into a Q&A. Who knows? But we'll get onto these. So, now here's the question, because you see all of my novelettes have a foreword in them. Where should I sign it? I'll sign it on the I like to sign them just underneath here. And if you ever see me and you have a copy of my book, I'm more than happy to sign it if you want me to. I've never had that happen though, so you know. I'm a fairly normal looking person most of the time. I think I'm not one of those. I don't go out and do a lot, especially not at the moment. Anyway, let's move on. I'm going to sign this one off. What's this one too? Right, okay. That's what this one's off to. I'm trying on the smallest desk in the world without trying to touch anything. So I'm going to... This is where we find out I have the world's most terrible signature. I apologise to anyone who's ever had a signed copy of me. I have a terrible signature. I mean, like, yeah, look at that. Anyway, right, that's one done, one down. So let's have a look at these questions whilst we're at it. We have got, they just keep coming. I'm doing this whilst I've asked 4 questions, so I've got like, they're continually coming in. Okay, so question number 1. What is your preferred drink while you write? I'm not going to put people's names on here, just in case they don't want me to. So, what is my preferred drink while I'm writing? Oh, that depends. So I'm a bit of a night owl. I do most of my writing at night time, which doesn't make for the healthiest of lifestyle choices, to be perfectly honest. I would say when I'm in the zone, I don't actually drink that much, which sounds terrible, but it's true because you're kind of focused on what you're doing. I am partial to a certain popular energy drink that won't get mentioned on here, just in case YouTube doesn't like it. Specifically the no sugar green can of that variety. I actually have one just over there at the moment to keep me through today. As for the rest of the time, I am partial to a black coffee, and I like my coffee with a little bit of syrup in it. Either I do like salted caramel, or pumpkin spice. To be fair, I'm a big pumpkin spice fan. I could drink that literally every day. No, just literally every day, really. The syrup I currently use is a skinny syrup. Not that I'm kidding anyone, but it's a skinny syrup, and it's pumpkin praline pie. It basically tastes like pumpkin spice from Starbucks. Okay, the next one, I am not going to get many of these done. The next one is there any kind of music that helps you write? Okay, so that one's really easy to answer. Actually, if you go over to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/ESStevens, really easy to remember. Link will be in the description anyway for those of you who are interested. I put up a few days ago a kind of like a public playlist of music that I like to listen to whilst I'm writing. Now, it is a playlist of the music that I listen to whilst I'm writing the Droll series specifically. And I find it kind of quite evocative, and it has some of the things that I just like to listen to, and some of the things that I think, oh yeah, would be quite good for Droll. I haven't done it like a generic one for when I'm writing. I actually, on my private YouTube, have a whole bunch of playlists that I listen to whilst I'm writing, and which one I listen to kind of depends upon either A, my mood, or B, what I'm currently writing at the time. If I'm writing short fiction and I'm writing specifically the spooky stuff, I actually have an ambient playlist that is just like spooky tree creaking sounds or haunted house sounds, just to kind of like get me in the mood. I don't know if that's weird or not. And for things like when I'm writing long form fiction, like the Droll series, I like to listen to if I'm listening to songs, I like to listen to a little bit of Skillet, and anything with a little bit of a beat to it. I don't know why, I always imagine that the Droll, like Cerberus or Cerberus, sort of have that kind of like punkish kind of theme. I could be wrong. So, but that's what I listen to whilst I am actually writing. I know that some people really struggle though to write when they've got like people singing physically inside their head or inside their ears, because I tend to wear earbuds when I'm doing it. So, okay, what else have we got here? So, what puts you in the mood for writing? Lots of things. That's a really tricky one. What puts me in the mood for writing? I would say the thing that puts me in the mood for writing, music probably is a big factor of it, actually. Thinking back to the previous question. Visiting places. There's actually quite a few real places in the world that you can actually go and visit that are in the Droll books. I might put that in a blog post. Put a pin in that. If that was you, put a pin in that and keep an eye on my website. And I might do a blog post even on places that you can genuinely go and visit that are mentioned, given different names, but are places that feature inside the Droll books or any of their kind of like the Dwentl War stuff. Okay, I'll move on from there. Thank you very much. Okay, so here's one I get asked a fair bit. Do you have any authors you look up to? Yes. Lots. Anyone who's managed to get published realistically should be looked up to, because speaking from experience, that process is not easy. I would say my favourite author is Raymond E. Feist. And if you go and if you go and subscribe to this YouTube channel, there is a whole playlist on the making of the Droll series. If you go on there, the first video on that actually talks about what inspires me, really. So I do like Raymond E. Feist. He's probably my favourite. I'm a big believer that he is the real grandfather of modern fantasy as we know it. Not necessarily Tolkien, and I may divide the crowd when I say that, but that's my opinion at least. As far as other authors are concerned, there's quite a lot of them. Genre's probably easier. I do like a little bit of classic Gothic. Dracula, Bram Stoker, Frankenstein. Not a massive fan of Edgar Allan Poe, although I definitely studied him at school. But I do like a little bit of that. And I do like Raymond Feist. Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time, books 1 to probably 5. There are an enormous number inside that series, and to my shame I have not finished them. But probably those. I'm a very big fantasy connoisseur, and I specifically like books that are very that have a little bit of dark in them. But thank you for that. Right, I'm going to do this one now. And then I think we've got some questions specifically about Droll. Looking at it. Okay. Oh, we've got a lot of ones about Droll. Okay, let's have a look. I think this is gonna be... Okay, so I may have to pick and choose in order to figure out some of these. Oh no, we've got some more generic ones as well. What is your morning routine? Let's do that one first. What is your morning routine? That's real easy. Firstly, I have a kid. But if what you mean is what is my morning routine when I'm having a writing day, my morning routine is get up, go downstairs, make coffee. I will usually put, as aforementioned, some form of coffee syrup inside that. Then I will stick on some YouTube. I will probably listen to one of my book playlists for probably about 30 minutes beforehand, whilst I'm having my coffee. Inevitably what will happen is I will then, after 30 minutes or so, kind of slowly sipping my coffee and savouring it. At some point during those 30 minutes, I will check some emails, respond to anything that needs responding to, go onto Facebook, have a little look on there, general procrastinating things. And then I will go and, from that point, I'll start writing. Inevitably, what will happen then is I will get into the mood of writing. I will forget my coffee exists, and it will then go cold. I will then, at some point, remember that my coffee exists, try to drink it, and pull that face that everyone pulls. That's kind of like, ugh, because it is cold. And then I will continue doing that until about midday. At midday, I will usually go for a walk, especially during these weird times that we're currently living in. I will usually go for a walk, and then I will come back, not really do anything, and then start writing again about 8 o'clock. So that was kind of like a day in the life of. But yeah, my morning routine is pretty much coffee, music, typing. Cool, now we're on the draw questions, and I get a lot of these. Unsurprisingly, because draw is like my flagship series, really. Okay, so the first one is... Okay, perhaps I should do these together. The first one is, what is a draw? And the next one is, what is a Dwentari? So, if you have not read any of the draw books, and you don't want to know, look away now. Or, so long, see you at the next one, because I have a hunch that a lot of these might be about draw. I don't think they'll be that spoilery, but feel good grief. I don't know if you could hear that. That was a very loud motorbike. I will try to be as little spoilery as possible. So, a droll, first and foremost, is not an elf. In fact, if you met a droll and referred to it as an elf, they would be extremely insulted. Droll comes from the German, and I think I've put this inside one of my other videos, but I think it's pronounced Drach. And if it's not, and you are German, I sincerely apologise, and you should blame Google. Because that was my Google foo. Droll is actually an abbreviation. It is the full name, the full type is Droruga. But that is so much of a mouthful that everyone in the draw books, when they are referring to each other, refers to each other as draw, in the same way that the British would refer themselves as Brits. Draw are quite long-lived, and they share more of a kinship with traditional Brothers Grimm style fae. They are a little shorter than humans, but extremely wiry, with extremely pointed features. They do have slightly longer ears. Not absurdly long. We're not referring to we're not talking like World of Warcraft elf ear long, but slightly longer ears. And they are very conceited. They very much consider themselves top of the food chain. They have the ability for compassion, but they're very much out for number one. On the flip side of that, what is a Dwentari? Well, Dwentari lives south of the lands of the Drogar, which is where the Drow live. The other side of a very large mountain range that sort of acts as a natural barrier between the two. It is not easy to scale, it's not easy to get through. There are passes through it, but a Dwentari, again, is maybe a little shorter than your average human these days. A Drow stands roughly a little over 5 foot. I think the tallest Drow is probably about 5'8". And a Dwentari is probably around the same height. We're talking kind of probably 5'4" to 5'6" in height. But they are much stockier and bigger than a Drow. They don't have an issue with facial hair. They will usually braid their hair, they let it grow long. They are very, or at least the Drow would consider them to be extremely barbaric. Worse so than humans, and there are humans in the Drow universe. But worse so than humans. They would see them extremely barbaric. But actually the Dwentari are scientists. They believe in metal and iron and building and technology. They don't have a huge amount in the way of magic, unlike the Drow. They do have oracles, so people who are precognistic, and they have warlocks, people who have signed themselves over to acquire power from a creature or being not of this plane. But they don't have a lot of them, and they are very skeptical in general of that kind of thing. They steer well away from it. They have some fantastic creatures their side of the border that they have, we'll use the word tamed in its loosest form. But yeah, they are still a people. Some people have turned around to me and said, are they dwarves? Again, for the same reason you would not call a drow an elf. These are not dwarves. They do make things, but they're not dwarves in the case of I will live underneath a mountain and, you know, the Tolkien variety. They are definitely not that. That was a very long-winded answer. The next one's linked. Why do the Dwentari dislike the Drow? For the same reasons I've just mentioned. Very skeptical of magic. Their two existences are pretty much polar opposites. The Drow do, to a certain extent, like to preserve balance. And the Dwentari feel that the world is there to make something of it. They have a mind of cogs and wheels. So their two existences are kind of the polar opposite of each other. There has always been kind of this hatred between them that has been there for generations upon generations upon generations. The Dwentari have always had skirmishes and tried to attack the Drow. The Drow have always retaliated, and on at least one occasion it has erupted into a major war. Okay, so the next one. This one definitely is a spoiler, so look away now if you don't want to know, because the next one is, what is Shadowtide? Shadowtide is only mentioned in book 2, which is Drow Scion, because of the time setting that it is. Shadowtide is a festival that basically celebrates what we would refer to as the winter solstice. They don't celebrate Halloween. and they don't celebrate kind of a Christmas. Shadowtide is both of these to a certain extent pushed together. You give gifts at Shadowtide, you celebrate at Shadowtide, and if you are familiar with the books, basically it is a big deal if you're from one of the noble houses. The royal court goes into recess for the better part of a week in order to celebrate Shadowtide, and there are usually big parties and functions to celebrate it. But yeah, it's kind of like it's sort of Christmas and Halloween all rolled into one. So plus my point. Who is Eroth? Okay, Eroth is mentioned in book 1 and then is a big deal in book 2. Once upon a time, the Droll had a large pantheon of gods, and Eroth is the one that won the popularity contest. There are other ones, but Eroth is the one that won. She is not a particularly pleasant goddess, but she is kind of the patron goddess of the Droll. And she has a number of kind of like names that go with her. She is the Moth Queen, and she pretty much looks after the underworld. But it's not an underworld in the same way that you and I would see it. When she's referred to in the books, Eroth is normally used as a bit of a curse. There's very few things that terrify a Droll, but Eroth is probably one of them. And the ladies who are the disciples of her at the Temple of Eroth, called matrons, are definitely given a wide berth. There are definitely some Drolls that don't necessarily believe in Eroth, but that is definitely something they keep to themselves. What else can I tell you about Eroth that doesn't spoil too much? She lives in the Greylands, which is, I suppose, what the Droll would refer to as the underworld. And it is said, from a mythological point of view, from the Droll's perspective, that when a Droll dies, and it has to be a full-blooded Droll, when a Droll dies, they will turn up in the Greylands, and Eroth will either welcome them to the Hall of Champions or the Hall of Heroes for the feast, and they will become part of her court, or she will turn them out into the Greylands itself, and they will become a roving spirit, and they will not be able to rest. Exactly what definition, what is required of a Droll in order to gain access to the Hall of Champions or the feast, kind of depends on who you speak to. It's certainly not about doing good necessarily. It's about making something of yourself, I suppose, would be the closest you could say. That's a good question. The next one is, why are the houses so divided? It's not that the houses are so divided. It's simply that they all kind of want the same thing. The Droll series is sort of set between what I suppose might be considered medieval, and at the same time what might be considered sort of turn of the century, 19th century, that kind of thing, because they have some things and not others. They aren't necessarily divided, they just kind of want the same thing, and that is to be the court favourite. They all kind of want to be top dog. most of the houses tend to get on reasonably well with each other. But as with all things, there are some houses that are bigger than others. House Gelseric is a little bit of a bully, basically. And where it votes, other smaller houses will vote with. So, for example, if there is a law being passed that, I don't know, let's pick something that's not in the book so that people aren't spoiled. Let's say that there was a law that was passed on swords. I don't think there ever would be, but let's say there was. And the Gelserics were against it, for obvious reasons. The symbol is swords. They would vote against it, and so would House Traileri, because House Traileri always votes wherever House Gelseric votes. It's about political manoeuvring. It is not necessarily about hate. Now, there is one big glaring exemption to that, and that is the long-standing feud between House Dalmara, which is the house that Cerberus and Cerberix belong to, and House Gelseric. That is a completely different thing. That doesn't actually have anything to do with their actual houses. It's to do with something, an act that happened before Cerberus and Cerberix were even born. And it is about trust. And that's all I'll say on the matter, just in case someone is watching that hasn't had a look and hasn't read it. Okay, how does magic work in Droll Society? Magic is everywhere. Magic is part of the world. It is what is loosely described as an easy magic system. Some people are born into it, and some people are not. Some people are capable of accessing it, and no one really knows quite why. But you can be trained, loosely. Droll Society, House Letheri is basically a house full of mages. But effectively, small things will happen. A little bit like Harry Potter. Small things will happen that will suggest that you have the ability to access magic in the world. And that sort of thing needs to be trained. And there are some very good reasons for that. If you're not trained, you could theoretically blow yourself up. Magic is very caustic. It's like acid. If you take on too much of it, it will chew you from the inside out. In fact, in I think both the short stories and the main Droll series, there are a few examples where you can look at it and you see someone do magic, and if it's a lot of magic, afterwards they will look physically haggard. It will look like they have aged. Now you can recuperate from that, but that is the effect, the toll that magic can have. Those in Droll Society that have access to magic or can tap into it tend to go to a place called Darktide. It's all the way up in the top eastern corner, if you go and have a look at the maps. Darktide is actually a small town, but Castle Darktide lies just on the edge of it, and basically it is a large mage's school where you go to study. Now, some people never leave Darktide, and they continue to simply be a scholar, and that's fairly normal, but there are a lot of others that learn the basic principles, specialise usually in a particular thing, and then they will return back to their homes. House Letheri has a lot of mages, and because it is a house full of mages, sometimes they don't go to Darktide. They just get sort of taught in house. But others, for example Maleficent Dalmara, who is Cerberus and Cerberix's aunt, did spend time at Darktide learning how magic worked, the cost, and where their limits lay. Okay, so next one is spoiler alert for book 2. How old are the crypts underneath the Temple of Eroth? Who knows? I mean, honestly, like, who knows? The Temple of Eroth is the oldest building in Everfall. And I'm not even entirely confident that the current generation of matrons could traverse the entire labyrinth and be able to find their way out. It goes beneath the surface quite a long way. It's a little bit like the French catacombs. If you go too far, you stand a very good chance of getting lost. And to be honest, I think that's kind of how the matrons like it. It's definitely an anti-theft device, let's be honest. But I would say they are probably hundreds, if not thousands of years old. Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question with a direct answer. They are incredibly old. They have been there since probably since the Drow arrived. The Temple of Eroth was definitely one of the first buildings that was ever built on that land. Okay, how many matrons of Eroth are there at any given time? God, you guys really like Eroth, don't you? It's alright, I like her too. How many matrons of Eroth are there at any given time? I would say there is no distinct number. You either have the calling or you don't. You do have to go through a bit of a ritual in order to become a matron of Eroth. There is kind of like a neophyte scheme, if you will. And most people tend to join the temple around about 12. There is a good reason for that, and that is because in Droll society at 12, you are allowed to choose your name. You are given a name at birth by your parents. However, at 12 years old, there is a naming ceremony where you can choose to either keep that name or you can change it to something else. Either way, it's sort of a rite of passage. And it's around about the same time that you kind of pick not necessarily what you're going to do when you grow up as a Droll, but oh no, I suppose it is that. What you want to learn when you kind of become an adult, you're into society. So for example, Cerberus, when he turned 12, kept the name Cerberus, and secondly, was initiated. That was the age at which he was initiated into, as an early neophyte, into the assassins of House Dalmara. That sounds really young, but it takes a long time in order to learn all the things that you need to learn. Most of the neophytes in House Dalmara these days tend to be older. They tend to be... there aren't children in the route these days, but that's certainly how it was back in Cerberus's day when he was training. As far as matrons are concerned, it's the same deal. The temple could function with probably just a handful, say 5 or 6, plus a matron mother. At the current time, I would say Eroth is still winning the popularity contests. There are 20 or so matrons and a matron mother, making it 21. Okay, thank you again for that question. Let's have a look. Where did the Droll come from? I'm not sure if you're asking me where here the Droll came from, or as in like Droll mythology, how did they reach the lands of the Droragar? I will endeavour to answer both, just in case. because I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to there. As far as the idea for the Droll series came, the Droll series came because it just sort of did. I know that sounds really weird, but it just sort of did. There was no particular rhyme or reason to it. I have always, ever since I was about 14 years old, written stuff, specifically on things like computers and when they were available, but even before that I used to handwrite a lot of stuff. I used to design book covers on sheets of A4 paper with coloured pencils or paints or whatever. I can tell you this, and this will sound a little bit strange. The city of Everfall, where Droll is kind of more or less set, has been in every bit of fiction that I have ever written as a child. And when I say a child, like a teenager. And some of that is terrible. And every time I wrote it, all the way up through, it was like it didn't fit. Like the characters didn't belong there. Even when I was at university, I wrote a piece for my final year project, which I did really well for. And it was still the same city, it was still the same skyline. I can sort of see it in my head. And then one day, I opened a document, and sort of Tolkien-esque, where it's like, he writes down on a piece of paper in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. I opened a document, and I just started writing. And I wrote about Cerberus first. And inside that moment, it was just like Everfall fitted. There was a little bit of me that just sort of went, these are the people that live in Everfall. This is the reason that skyline looks so enigmatic and strange. I hit the ceiling there in case you hadn't noticed. Enigmatic and strange and unique. And it just felt right. I can't give more of a reason than that, really. Not particularly divine inspiration or anything. I just sat down one day and I was like, I'm gonna write something. I distinctly remember turning around to my work colleagues, because I still have a full-time job, by the way, one day and saying, hey, so I've written a thing, decided that I'm going to go ahead and get it published, and I'm going to see you in a year, and by that year is done, I'm going to be a published author. That got some looks. So, however, if you're referring to where did the Droll come from, as in mythologically speaking, within the within this fantasy world, well, opinion is split. If you are particularly religious and you adhere to the rulings of Eroth and the matrons, then the Eroth were brought out from the darkness by Eroth. Then the Droll, were brought out of the darkness by Eroth herself. She guided her children from the Greylands to the lands of the Droll-Ragar, so that they could thrive. The Droll are, to all intents and purposes, her children. If you do not necessarily subscribe to that, you are a little more practical-minded, perhaps, or you are a historian looking at books you probably shouldn't be, that are definitely banned. There is a strong indication that the Droll are not native to the lands of the Droll-Ragar, and that they arrived, the first of them arrived on ships on the eastern coast. In fact, there is a few of them that genuinely believe that the reason Castle Darktide is there, and it is a large, well-fortified castle, is because that was the first place that the droll landed. Now, that is generally considered heresy amongst the droll, and more commonly known as it is considered that Everfall was the first bastion of civilization of the droll, and everything else spread out from there. However, like I said, opinion is divided between the two, and certainly the younger generations of droll are a lot less religious than their parents or even their grandparents. So the theory is becoming a little bit more widespread, which is something that, to be honest, the matrons are probably not too happy about. And the final one is, what makes a Dwentari worth keeping alive in the Droll Kingdom? You mean the lands of the Droll. Okay, this is almost certainly from someone who has, during the promotional period for the Shade Reaver, has gone and listened to the promo extract that I put up roughly 3 weeks ago. Thank you, by the way, for going and watching that. Or listening to it, really. Listening to it. So there is obviously a spoiler coming up. And if you don't want to hear it because you want to read the Shade Reaver with no preconceptions, I will see you in the next video. However, if you are less interested, or you simply just want to hear, then stay on for a bit longer. There are many reasons that a Dwentari could live inside the lands of the Droll. They are referred to very, very rarely, and because most droll will genuinely kill a Dwentari on sight. So, I'm slipping off my chair, and I just hit my head. That's 2. So, if someone is useful, the Droll will keep them on. Dwentari are stocky, and they are quite hard to kill. No one really knows why. They just have a bountiful amount of life inside them. Which means that in the odd occasion you can find a Dwentari that is not, perhaps is specifically leaving the Dwenter Empire. They make good mercenaries, but you are certainly not going to reveal to anybody that you have a Dwentari mercenary. That is literally suicide to do that. House Dalmar will most certainly come knocking on your door if that kind of information is found out. That said, not everyone in the Dwenter Empire is happy with being in the Dwenter Empire. So rarely, and I mean very rarely, you will get political refugees. And if those political refugees have something that is useful, then the droll will kind of put up with them. They will usually be somewhere out of the way in the middle of nowhere where no one can find them, when no one is going to really look too hard. But other than that, there really is no reason to keep a Dwentari at all. The droll will kill them on sight. The bastions along the Fangs of Eroth, which is the big mountain range that keeps the two sides apart, are specifically there for the purpose of ensuring that no Dwentari come through the passes. That is how much they don't want them. There are some very, very, very rare exceptions. But yes. Did I sign this one? Yes. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3 books left to sign. I don't think I've got any more questions. Nope, that is all of the ones that I've been sent. I was sent a lot more, but I've had a lot of since then, like repetitions that I've already probably answered, and I don't want to make this video too long if I can help it. It's already going to be about an hour. Jesus. Okay, so I will sign these off quickly. There we go. So that's one. I can't think of anything else at this precise moment in time. Where can you get the draw books? I get that asked a little bit of time. Almost anywhere is the answer to that one. Literally almost anywhere. It is available to a very wide range of bookshops and online sellers. If you look up Draw Blood, for example, which is the first in the series, if you look up Draw Blood, you will just Google it. You will find a lot of places that sell it, and I have listed on my website online links so you can purchase it online for a variety of countries, but it is available globally. It is only available in English, sadly. I have not had it translated into any other language, but you can get it on Amazon. You can find them. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them in Barnes and Noble. You can find them in W.H. Smith's. If you are in the UK, pretty much the only place you can't find them is Waterstones. Now, I have tried to get and have a conversation with Waterstones about this, but basically they use a different system to purchase their books. I am with a global system with my publisher. However, it is not the same one. And even though it seems to be the one that is used by the majority of places, for some reason Waterstones have their own. I would love to see it in Waterstones, but it's quite difficult to approach and contact them. So if Waterstones is watching, I'd love to have a conversation with you about getting it in your shop. I think that's everything. So I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. It has been great to talk to you guys and answer some of your questions. I normally do this on Facebook Live, so if you have not already and you are enjoying things so far, please go ahead, tick that little bell. Is it that corner? Is it that down there? See, I'll get it right eventually. The little bell down there. And make sure that you subscribe and you get your notifications and things. You know the drill. And head over to Facebook. You can find my official Facebook page at facebook.com/ES really easy. And if you are on Instagram, you can find me at E_S_Stevens_author. Lots of underscores there. I will go ahead and put those in the description down below. And I think next, where are my notes on my time schedule today? We will be coming back for a reading of Shade Reaver and talking about how purchasing one of these will help these people. I got it right that time. Will help these people up here. As always, it has been a pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. This has been a very long video. I'm hoping the other ones won't be quite so long. But that's it for now. See you around.